I left town for 2 weeks, and when I came back, 74 wind turbines were spinning on my farmland powering a neighborhood. I didn't even live in. What I didn't expect was that this seemingly shady project would later become my ticket to financial freedom. Welcome to my channel. If you love insane HOA revenge stories, hit that subscribe button and let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. The first thing I noticed wasn't the turbines, it was the flickering shadows across my driveway. Long blades cutting through the sky, like giant arms reaching toward the clouds. I just pulled up from a 2E trip out of state, still jet-lagged and running on vending machine coffee, when I rounded the corner of my gravel road and nearly drove into a truck marked Evergreen Power Solutions. My mouth went dry as I rolled to a stop and stepped out of my pickup, staring at the surreal sight before me, where my wide, open farmland used to stretch serene and uninterrupted now stood towers, metal white, gleaming, each one several stories high, their blades spinning lazily in the spring breeze. 74 of them, I counted later. Some were still half-built with cranes in the distance hoisting parts into place. Others already hummed softly, blades turning in sin like a colony of mechanical giants. I stood there motionless, the keys still in my hand, trying to understand how the land I'd inherited from my fatherland, I had specifically kept undeveloped to maintain its natural state, had suddenly become a wind farm. "Excuse me, sir, can I help you?" came a voice from behind. I turned to see a man in a yellow vest with a clipboard and walkie-talkie. "This is private property," I said. My voice came out low, and even though every nerve in my body was on fire. "Yeah, actually about that," he replied, flipping through some papers. "According to our project lead, the HOA from Ridgerist Valley got emergency authorization to install renewable infrastructure. You might want to talk to Karen Dost, the HOA president. She'll explain everything." I didn't reply, just stared at him, then back at the land. Emergency authorization. Ridgerist Valley, that neighborhood was on the other side of the tree line, over a mile away. I didn't even live in that HOA, didn't even vote in their meetings, and now they were using my land. By the time I got to my front porch, I'd counted at least 24 workers, heavy machinery, and a temporary office trailer parked right in my hayfield. A sign near the road read, "Ridgerist Renewable Initiative, powering a greener future." I walked up to the trailer and knocked hard. No one answered. I opened the door. Inside, I found blueprints spread across a table and a stack of folders marked Phase 2 expansion. My name wasn't on a single page. My property wasn't even labeled as leased, just Grid Zone C. A casual assumption, a foregone conclusion. They thought I wouldn't notice or wouldn't care. I stepped out of the trailer just in time to see a black BMW SUV pull up and park in the gravel, spraying dust into the air. A tall woman in a gray pantsuit stepped out, clutching a binder. "You must be Mr. Dawson," she said with a tight, toothless smile. "Karen Dost, Ridge Crest, OA president. I was hoping you'd be back before final inspections." "Final inspections?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "Oh yes," she chirped as if we were discussing a garden party. "You've probably heard about the Ridgerist renewable mandate. All HOAs in the district are required to meet a 30% energy offset by the end of next year, but our board wanted to go above and beyond. We found that your land was perfectly suited for wind capture, clear fields, minimal elevation shift. I assumed you'd be thrilled to be part of something progressive." I let that sink in for a second. "And when exactly was I going to be informed?" I asked. Karen blinked. "Well," she said, "we filed the necessary infrastructure permits with the county. You should have received notice." I didn't, and I told her that. Her smile faltered slightly, but she recovered quickly. "In any case, it's all been approved, and we're nearly operational. You'll get a generous usage compensation once the turbines are online. It's all in the contract." "What contract?" I asked. "There is no contract with me. This land belongs to me, and I never gave permission for this." Karen's face twitched, but she masked it behind another fake smile. "Leighton, not escalate," she said. "There's always room for discussion. Besides, you stand to benefit greatly from this partnership, a greener planet, and compensation. Win-win, right?" I didn't answer. I didn't scream, didn't threaten, didn't even tell her to get the hell off my land. I just smiled back, a different kind of smile, the kind my brother used to call my problem-solving smile, because I'd already made my decision that night. I didn't sleep. Instead, I pulled out the original deed, checked the zoning maps, then rechecked them. Sure enough, my land was privately owned, not zoned for industrial use. No HOA overlap, no shared boundaries, no lease agreements. They had no right to be here, none. I sat in the dark with a bottle of bourbon and stared out the window at the blinking red lights on top of the turbines, each one flashing like a mocking heartbeat. I could fight them, sure, call a lawyer, file an injunction, maybe sue, but that would mean months, maybe years of court, and by then, They'd already have sucked up thousands of dollars of energy from turbines they had no right to build, and I'd be left with nothing but dead soil and power cables. No, I thought I wasn't going to stop them. I was going to let them finish, let them build every last one, let them wire it up, let them flip every damn switch. And then I'd take it all back quietly. Without warning, I called my old buddy retired electrician, now running his own off-grid consulting business, Ray. I said, how fast can you design a local grid reroute system with load balancing and autonomous cut over? He was quiet for a moment, then he said, depends how much juice you're trying to catch. I told him. His silence stretched longer. Then he said, you crazy son of a, where do we start? Over the next few days, I played the part of the patient landowner, even showed up to a rigorous HOA celebration cookout, where they unveiled a stupid little plaque with the words Green Future Pioneer Site Rigorous HOA. They gave me a gift basket with eco-friendly soaps and a copy of Sustainable Living for Dummies. Karen posed for pictures in front of one of the turbines with her hand on my shoulder like we were best friends. I nodded, smile, bit my tongue. Behind the scenes, Ree and I were already running fiber lines underground from the main junction points near turbine base stations. We installed custom breakers inside my barn disguised as an old irrigation control panel. Every turbine's output line would pass through a splitter, a hidden gatekeeper, and once the right moment came, the HOA's energy wouldn't go to rigorist anymore. It would go right to me. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing, not even my cousin who owned the plot next to mine. I needed the HOA to think I was backing down, that I was folding under the pressure, that I had accepted my role as the generous neighbor in their green utopia. They kept building. I kept watching. They celebrated progress. I celebrated silence, until finally, after 6 weeks, I got the call from Karen. Just wanted to let you know, she said sweetly, our final system checks are done. The turbines go fully online Monday. I looked out my window at the towers line like soldiers along the ridge. That's great, I said. Really great. My smile grew wider. Because Monday, everything would change. I didn't touch a single turbine, not one bolt, not one panel, not even when they dug into my cornfield with their clunky rented excavators and turned it into a concrete pad with fiber trenches crisscrossing like spider webs across the dirt. I kept my boots clean and my hands in my pockets, waving politely to the foreman each morning as if nothing was wrong. If anyone asked, I was just the landowner, just the quiet guy who didn't want trouble, but trouble was all I wanted. I wanted it burning hot and humming through every blade of those turbines. When I finally cut the cord, but I couldn't do it alone, that's when I called Ray. Raymond Cortez. Back in the day, he was the kind of electrician who rewired warehouses in his sleep, a guy who could rig power from a backup generator in the middle of a thunderstorm while holding a cigarette between his teeth. He was older, now silver-bearded and semi-retired, but he owed me big. I saved his ass in a zoning battle 10 years back when the city tried to find him into bankruptcy over a shed that had the wrong roofing pitch. Now it was time to collect. Ray showed up 3 days after the HOA celebration picnic, still wearing his beat-up Carhartt jacket and chewing a toothpick. Heard you've got wind trouble, he said with a crooked smile. I didn't say a word, just pointed into the ridge. He whistled low. Damn, that's a lot of spin. 74, I said. 14 megawatts total at peak load. They're not online yet, but they will be by Monday. Ray scratched his chin. That's not backyard solar, that's a full damn microgrid. Exactly, I said, and I want every kilowatt redirected straight into my private system. I want Ridgecrest dark and me lit up like the Vegas Strip. He stared at me for a long beat, then nodded. We'll need a gate array, manual override, and failover loop. Going to have to spoof the SCADA handshake too, or their grid manager going to see something's wrong. I handed him a manila folder. I pulled the turbine specs off the county's filing site. Everything's in their models, wiring diagrams, inverter specs. Flipped through it and smirked. Jesus, you weren't kidding. You really did your homework. I've been reading a lot, I said. Anger does that. The next day, we started laying conduit, not above ground, too risky. Everything had to be hidden. We dug shallow trenches through my field, carefully weaving between the official turbine cables, so we wouldn't trigger any alerts. Ray custom built what he called sniffers, low voltage clamps that could detect current flow and feed it through our own network without interrupting the turbine's operation. It was a piggyback system, a silent tap. We mounted 6 reroute boxes inside my equipment shed, disguised behind racks of irrigation timers and fertilizer tanks. Each one was connected to a central controller that Ray built from scratch using industrial-grade circuit boards and a laptop we bought off Craigslist for $60. This little bastard's going to run your empire, he said, proudly patting the dusty laptop like it was alive. Once those turbines start pushing juice, we'll let them power rigorist for a few days. Make them think everything's fine, then we cut them off, flip the relay, and the current flows right to your new baby. He pointed to the corner of the shed where 6 large boxes were stacked on top of each other wrapped in plastic, and humming softly bit main Ant Miner S19 Pro latest batch. Each one's good for 110 terahash per second. You got a mining farm now, brother. I didn't plan to mine Bitcoin when this started. I just wanted revenge. But as I sat there at night watching those red turbine lights blink and sink like heartbeats, I realized I didn't just want to take back what was mine. I wanted a profit. I wanted to turn their theft into my fortune. Let Ridge Crest hold their meetings in the dark. I'd be holding private keys to digital gold and I worked every night for 2 weeks crawling through mud, soldering wires by flashlight, calibrating inverters, while listening for the sound of HOA trucks in the distance. We mapped every single turbine. Each one had its own ID number, its own output range, and its own vulnerability. Most people didn't realize how insecure these systems really were. They were built for efficiency, not security. Once we had access to their main distribution node, which thanks to poor planning they'd placed on my land near the irrigation canal, we inserted a bypass relay, small, sleek, and invisible to the untrained eye. It looked like part of the control box, but once activated it would divert all power through our switch before ever hitting their transmission line. The HOA would see power flow, but not realize where it was going. Karen called me again during week 3. Hey, just checking in, we're seeing some minor voltage fluctuations on the primary line, totally normal during ramp-up. You haven't noticed anything on your end, right? I told her I hadn't told her I was loving the look of those turbines spinning across my ridge. She laughed. See, I knew you'd come around. It's a good thing we didn't start off with legal tension. Cooperation, so much better. I smiled at the phone. Oh, I completely agree. Cooperation is the best. After that, I doubled the number of mining rigs, ordered more on a private line, shipped to a buddy's warehouse under a fake company name, reinstalled extra fans in the barn, rigged the roof with hidden vents to handle the heat. He even brought over a backup diesel generator in case the local utility ever got nosy. This is it, man, he said one night as we watched the turbines spin under the moonlight. You're stealing power from a government-protected HOA grid to mine untraceable currency in the middle of nowhere. You're a Bond villain. Now I'm a farmer, I said, lighting a cigar, just growing something different every day. I acted normal, tended my fields, waved at the HOA engineers as they ran diagnostics. They had no clue. One afternoon, a technician even asked me to sign a compliance form saying their output was within expected margins. I smiled, signed it, and offered him lemonade. Meanwhile, Ray installed a kill switch disguised as a light switch in my kitchen. If anything goes wrong, if they come sniffing around, you flip this, it dumps the system, wipes the logs, and routes everything back to normal within 10 seconds. I named it the Karen switch. We ran a full test the week before launch, simulated turbine input from a mock signal, monitored how fast our relays activated, watched the mining rig spin up like hungry engines. It worked flawlessly. Everything was automated, invisible, beautiful. We were ready. I didn't tell anyone else, not my cousin, not my banker, not even the local electrician who used to help me fix broken well pumps. This had to stay quiet, because the second Ridge Crest suspected anything, they'd lawyer up and shut me down. So I played my role, waved, smiled, listened patiently when HOA reps gave speeches about eco-leadership and future first planning. I was the poster child for compliance, the guy who cooperated, who went along, who let them do what they needed to save the planet. And when Karen told me that Monday would be the full system activation, I nodded like a proud partner. But that night, Ray and I raised a glass of bourbon in the barn and toasted the red blinking lights outside. You're about to be the only man in the county who mines Bitcoin on stolen wind, he said. That's got to be a record. I clinked my glass to his. To revenge, I said, and renewable income, because I wasn't just taking back what was mine. I was about to make them pay the power bill. It started at 3:07 a.m. on a Wednesday, the moment the last maintenance worker finished calibrating the final turbine and left Ridgerist Valley with a clipboard full of check marks and a smug system optimal status report. The neighborhood had no idea that at that exact minute 74 turbines were spinning with more power than ever, feeding into what they believed was their very own off-grid miracle. Lights were still glowing, air conditioner still humming. The HOA board was celebrating in their group chat, congratulating each other on achieving energy independence 2 months ahead of schedule. Karen DOBs even sent out a community-wide email blast. We've done it. Ridgecrest is now fully powered by Wyndham model for green living. I read it from my phone, While sipping black coffee in my barn watching our control interface flicker to life, Ree stood beside me, greasy ball cap, pulled low, chewing on a donut like it was his last meal. "You ready?" he asked. I tapped the relay icon on the screen. The switch flipped with a soft, nearly imperceptible click. That was it, a whisper of sabotage. No dramatic explosion, no warning sirens, just a quiet handshake between relays as the turbine's output rerouted, leaving Ridgerist Valley in the dark and directing every precious watt straight into my mining rigs. We watched it happen in real time. The turbines kept spinning, business as usual, but instead of feeding their community transformer, the juice flowed into our bypass circuit, surged down our buried conduit, passed through our voltage regulator, and hit the first cluster of ant miners. With a satisfying surge of green-lit confirmation, fans roared to life as the rigs began hashing, solving complex algorithms at dizzying speeds. The crypto dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree. Wallet connection successful. Mining commenced. Hash rates rising. Ray slapped my back. "You're printing money now, brother." And we were thousands of dollars in digital currency generated silently every day from Wind. Ridgerist thought they owned. By dawn, the mining rigs were already earning at a pace that would net me $6,000 per week. Minimum, more once we activated the second cluster, but the money wasn't the best part. The best part came around 6:12 a.m. when the first resident in Ridgerist tried to brew coffee and the Keurig refused to turn on. By 6:45, the neighborhood group chat Ray hacked into it using a dummy account weeks ago was blowing up. "Is anyone else having power issues? My fridge just beeped and turned off. We F down too. Did we lose grid connection?" Karen, of course, responded like a queen holding court in a crisis. "Don't panic. The Wind system is probably rebalancing after initial synchronization. I'll contact the technicians." Ray cackled. "Yeah, Karen, you call them. Let me know how that goes." The HOA scrambled within the hour. They had 3 contractors walking through the community, testing breakers, inspecting substations, reviewing turbine output. Their meters all showed production, but nothing was flowing past the Ridgerist transformer. Power was vanishing. Between point A and point B, a black hole of electricity. I watched from my window as Karen paced in front of her garage, her phone pressed tight to her ear. She didn't realize I was already up $2,500 in Bitcoin by the time she called the county's energy liaison and begged them for answers. Ree, with a beer in hand, nodded at the screen. "They're going to think they've got a grounding fault or a cable short, might even tear up their own lines trying to find it." By chaos bloomed across Ridgerist. The HOA clubhouse generator failed, overloaded, trying to supply power to 3 blocks. The electric golf carts used by residents to shuttle around the neighborhood were lined up like dead soldiers near the community pool. Karen issued another emergency email. "Please conserve phone battery until further notice. The Ridgerist grid is undergoing a momentary disruption due to turbine recalibration." We saved the screenshot. Ray laughed so hard he choked on a pretzel. "Momentary disruption? That's one way to say someone jacked your whole damn power source." They held an emergency HOA meeting that night, lit by candles and battery-powered lanterns. We tuned into the audio through a hacked Bluetooth speaker Ray had planted in the community room weeks earlier, tucked behind a fire extinguisher. Karen's voice came through fuzzy but clear. "This is a technical glitch. We are working with Evergreen Power and our turbine partners to resolve it." Someone else, board member, maybe, snapped. "We paid almost $2 million for this system. Why is nothing working?" Karen fumbled. "The techs are running a full diagnostic." Then another voice, probably one of the angry residents, shouted, "Why can't we just switch back to the municipal grid? My kid couldn't charge his insulin pump." There was a pause. Karen cleared her throat. "We terminated our city connection last month to fully commit to wind energy. We're a leader now. We're a blackout now." Someone yelled back. The meeting fell into shouting, shuffling, and eventually silence. That same night, I activated Phase 2, the underground chamber. It had started as a wine cellar decades ago, back when my grandfather ran the farm. We'd reinforced it, sealed it, and installed climate control to handle the mining heat. The next batch of ant miners went online just past midnight. Hash rates doubled by morning. I was already sitting on a 5-figure crypto wallet. The irony was glorious. Ridgerist bragged for months about going green, about taking back energy, about becoming self-sustaining, and now they were being sustained by me. I even thought about mailing Karen a thank you card. Instead, I just watched as the HOA fell apart piece by piece. 3 days after the switch, the Ridgerist community garden wilted. The irrigation system was offline, security gates jammed, AC units fried from inconsistent power cycles. Trash piled up because the waste compactors were dead. Their entire community structure, so dependent on clean, smart technology, had collapsed into prehistoric panic on day 4. Karen issued a new decree: all residents must limit electric use and report any unauthorized energy activity. Someone posted a meme of her wearing a crown made of dead solar panels. The HOA chat turned hostile. Meanwhile, I ordered more rigs, quietly expanded the power bank storage system so I could mine 247 without worrying about peak turbine hours. Helped install battery backups using Tesla power walls we bought secondhand from a repo auction. We buried them under the east field and wired them into our switchboard. I could now mine through the night, sell excess power back to the grid during peak hours, and never pay a cent in utilities again. And I owed it all to Karen. Every kilowatt, every Satoshi, every fried HOA poter. The most poetic part, they still didn't suspect me. They blamed the power contractor, blamed faulty parts, blamed the wind itself. At one point, a group of residents even staged a protest, holding cardboard signs near the community entrance that read, "Bring back the grid," and "No power equals no peace." Karen tried to silence them, threatened fines, but it was no use. The board had lost control. On day 7, Ridgecrest was hit with its first lawsuit by a family whose child missed a dialysis treatment due to power loss. On day 8, Karen called an emergency press conference in front of the HOA office, claiming Ridgecrest was under cyber attack. That's when lost it completely. He printed t-shirts that said "HOA Act" and gave them to everyone in town except Ridgecrest. I wore mine while sitting on my porch sipping lemonade, watching the turbines spin like massive dollar signs in the sky. 1 week of silence, 1 week of suffering, 1 week of pure uninterrupted payback. And I wasn't done yet. The funniest part, at least for me, was watching them spiral. Week 2 of the blackout hit Ridgecrest like a sledgehammer to the face. The HOA had promised a sleek, modern utopia powered entirely by clean, renewable energy, free from the unreliable clutches of the city grid. Now they were in the middle of a full-blown crisis. Their entire infrastructure, designed to function off those 74 turbines spinning on my land, was useless. They hired 3 different consulting firms to diagnose the problem. All 3 returned the same vague verdict: power loss between production and distribution. No errors in the turbines, no faults in the cabling, no explanation for why thousands of kilowatts were simply vanishing into thin air. I knew where they were going, of course, right into my underground Bitcoin. When others think they can take advantage of you, let them think that, and then turn their mistake into your opportunity. This story isn't just an epic tale of revenge. It's a lesson in patience, intelligence, and ownership. Don't rush to anger. Don't act while you're still in the dark. Step back, observe carefully, and when the time is right, strike decisively, legally, strategically, and, if necessary, through the very system they built to take you down. The lesson here isn't sabotage. It's about reclaiming what's rightfully yours, smartly, legally, and in a way that benefits you. Know your land rights. Never let anyone force you into being a partner in something you never agreed to. If they build their future on your sweat, resources, and land, make sure you're the one controlling the power switch. And remember, not everyone who builds on something owns it. The real owner is the one who never forgets who that land truly belongs to. Protect your land. Protect your name. And if you can, turn injustice into income. Revenge is best served cold and powered by renewable energy.